Hey guys, it's Denivius Art. He back with an updated deck profile for the Cubic deck. I tried to take some cards out to make it run faster. I've replaced some cards to make it do things that it already could do a lot faster. So this deck is basically built for a little bit more speed. It's to help it maintain relevancy because, as we all know, True Draco is about to come out, and this deck really has a problem with paleo right now, which is what I'm noticing as I'm testing it out at my locals. So when I sped it up, I was able to get to my OTKs a whole lot faster. So I'm just gonna shut up now and get into the deck profile. So first, if you guys remember, playset of Crimson Nova, always necessary in the deck. You need a playset. Basically, he's untouchable by effects of monster cards with 3,000 or less attack. He's also can attack twice in a battle phase if he destroys a monster. And then at the end of the turn, of course, he burns for 3,000. He burns both you and your opponent for 3,000. So he's the sub boss of the deck, but everybody treats him as the boss because he's the easier to summon. Duza is basically your Armageddon Knight. He basically dumps or purges cubic cards from your deck. They can be monster or spell or trap, but he basically just dumps them from your deck. It helps you. It's usually good to dump the karmas and the unifications in order to get their engrave effects off, but we'll go into that a little bit more later. Next, spine of the deck, Vijam. You need to run 3 Vijam because Vijam is your sacrificial lamb, and he is unable to be destroyed by battle, but he is your sacrificial lamb for your other 6 cubic cards. Basically, Vijam can also be treated as a fiendish chain, because when he gets hit, you can decide to change him into a continuous spell card. He'll put the cubic counter on him, and then the cubic counter basically has the same effects as a fiendish chain, so your opponent can't attack and that monster can't use its effects. So it's good either way. Next, we're going to go into the King series of the cubics. So you got 1 Gera Guile, 1 Vulcan Dragni, and 1 Indoria Doomvolt. Basically, they all have the same base effect, which is when you summon them properly, they burn for 800. But also they each need a certain amount of sacrifices. So your level 2 needs 1 sacrifice, your level 3 needs 2 sacrifices, your level 4 needs 3 sacrifices. But the cool thing about it is, as long as they're in a battle and survive, at least the first 2, as long as they're in the battle and survive, they'll summon Vijams out, search the next guy, and then they'll float into each other. So it's not really hard to play these, especially in this particular build. So it's important that you just have as many different names as possible, also because Duza has that secondary effect where you can pump up his attack for each differently named monster in the graveyard. But it's also important to have a whole bunch of names for Nova as well. So the Beast series, which is Garnex, Garoodia, and Buster Gundil. They're exactly like the Kings in the sense that the level 2 guy needs 1 sacrifice, level 3 guy needs 2 sacrifices, and the level 4 guy needs 3 sacrifices. But instead of burning, they attack multiple times. So the level 2 guy will attack once, level 3 guy will attack twice, and then last but not least, Buster Gundil, being the biggest, will attack 3 times. And that's actually another totally another win condition if you can get him out on the field and start just like wrecking people with him. Even if you don't get him out on the field by regular means, Like if you use Unification to get him out on the field, and then you just like bump him, I don't think you have to sacrifice. I don't think you have to actually sacrifice the cubics to go into his effect of being able to attack multiple times. So that's basically your monster cubic engine. It's 15 cubics, so keep that ratio in mind because you need that ratio. 2 Summoner Monks. Basically, they're your next combo starter after Duza. They'll pull out your Duza and start him up to start up your cubic combos, or they'll pull out the next card, which is 2 Vylon Prisms. Now, this is what I replaced Sangame with, was the Vylon Prisms, and the reason why is because the combination with this card with Summoner Monk was too good to pass up. So basically, you summon the Summoner Monk, you'll pitch your Karma, ideally, you'll pitch Karma, and then you'll summon Vylon. You'll activate Karma's effect, you'll go into a Cyframe Lord Omega, and then you'll bring Karma back during your opponent's turn so you can use the effect again, the effect of Karma again. The last monster that you run, and you run a pair of it, is the tech card Predaplant Chlamydosundew Kingy. I'm gonna call him Kingy because that's his OCG name, but this card's really good as a tech card, especially in cubics. It's just got a whole lot of synergy with this deck, along with Greedy Venom Fusion. So we'll get into that if I do another combo video. Next is spells. So you run a playset of Karma. Basically, while in the graveyard, they're your Rhoda, but they're also an attack booster for your cubics. So you'll play this, you'll target any cubic monster that isn't Vijam, and then you'll send Vijam from your hand or your deck. And for every Vijam that you send from your hand or your deck to the graveyard, that targeted cubic gains 800 attack power times each Vijam. So it's like up to 2.4k. Or, yeah, 2.4k. Also, it has that effect that if a monster effect summons Vijams during your opponent's turn, it'll cut your opponent's life points in half and then destroy itself. So either way, you'll get your Rhoda effect off. And it actually requires your opponent to answer this while this is on the field. So they waste their Twin Twisters a lot on Cubic Karma. Cubic Wave. Cubic Wave, basically you target a cubic monster, then you target a monster on your opponent's side of the field. The cubic monster will double its attack. The monster on your opponent's side of the field will half its attack. So that allows your cubics to attack over it. It's usually good for getting into when you summon Nova, and then you want that OTK to happen almost immediately. It's best to do it that way, but it's also good for your kings and your beasts in order to attack over your opponent's monsters, so you can get their effects off as well. Next, I run a play set of Foolish Burial now, instead of just running 2. The reason why I run a playset is because it's absolutely necessary to dump Karma as fast as possible, because once you start searching and purging your deck faster, you get your OTK faster. So the faster you purge and the faster you search, the quicker you can get your OTK. I run 2 Recurring Nightmare. Basically, they get a dark monster with 0 defense back to your hand. So that's your Nova and your Vijam that are targets. You're using it for your Nova, but you'll use it for your Vijams as well if you're going to be using your on-field effect of Karma. So yeah, that. Next, I run 2 Burdens of the Mighty. That's self-explanatory, dude. It's just another card to help you beat over your opponent's monsters with your King series and your Beast series, so they can go into their effects more or their hierarchies more efficiently. Draw muscle. It's draw power, but it's also the fact that it can protect a defense position king and then the king go ahead and activate its effect to summon Vijams, while there's a karma on the field, which allows you to cut off your opponent's life points by half. So that part. Then the last spell card I run is 2 Twin Twisters. Just another way to pitch karma. And if you don't have karma, but you have like an extra foolish burial goods in your hand, which is dead because it's a hard once per turn, just pitch foolish burial goods and keep it pushing, dude. Like, do what you gotta do, but get rid of that back row because we don't like it. Once Tornado Dragon comes out, though, it's gonna be a little bit easier for the cubics to get into that. But next is the trap. So Unification, the Cubic Lords, basically your poly of the deck. It's also a defensive card while in the graveyard. So basically, it'll be in the graveyard. You'll banish it when a cubic monster comes off the field in any type of way. That means whether it's banished, destroyed, put back in your hand, put back in your deck. It automatically, you can activate this card in grave, and it'll summon a level 4 or lower cubic from your deck, and the card won't be affected by card effects or be able to be destroyed in battle. So basically, you can use this while in the graveyard as a combination, as a defensive combination. If you have like a, let's say you had a Duza out on the field and you had like a karma, and you had your karma out on the field, but they pitched your Duza back to your hand. That doesn't destroy karma. So they pitch the Duza back to your hand, then you activate this card, then you pitch a cubic king on the field. If you have Vijams in your graveyard already, and then, which you will because obviously you activated karma, you'll pull, when they try to attack into your cubic king series, let's just say a Gera Guile, for example. If they try to attack into your Gera Guile and you have all 3 of your Vijams in the graveyard, they try to attack into it, well, it's indestructible, so its effect is automatically going to go off because it's going to survive the battle. So they attack into it, you summon the 2 Vijams, and then you search for your Vulcan Dragni so you can go into them your next turn. Now, the funny thing about it is, you'd be surprised about how often that happens because nobody actually knows the engrave effect of this card because nobody pays attention to it. It's like I said, cubic get a lot of flack for being like bricky or weak, but in all actuality, they're pretty good. I've stomped a whole lot of Zodiacs with this deck. So next is Wall of Disruption. Wall of Disruption, once again, just another way to beat over your opponent's cards with your cubic monsters to go into their effects, to summon the Vijams from the graveyard and to go ahead and go further into their hierarchies. Basically, this card is just going to be a battle trap. Your opponent's going to attack. If they have like a big board with at least 3 monsters on it, each of their monsters is going to lose 2,400 because this card specifically states that each face-up monster on your opponent's side of the field loses 800 for each face-up monster that they have on their field. So that's going to pretty much wreck most monsters' attack points to the point where even weak Garnex can get over them. I'm not going to say Gera Guile is going to be able to get over them, but most monsters will. It'll make it so most monsters are weak enough where Garnex can get over them, and Garnex can use his effect to get into Garoodia. Last but not least, I run 2 the Transmigration Prophecies. We already know that's for recycling purposes, and because it can recycle itself, you can immediately keep on recycling other cards. Next is extra deck really fast. 2 Crimson Nova Trinities, 2 Greedy Fusions, and 1 Psyframe Lord Omega. I'm not going to explain too much about these cards because these cards are basically the same as my last deck profile. But I hope you enjoyed this deck profile. I don't have an extra deck for you guys because that's always up to you guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and the Nivea Sart is out.